Hi, I'm Bart Hanson, the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description. So 1300
Yep.
effective.
Yeah, under the gun limps. Don't know the player, just kind of middle-aged white guy.
Okay.
I am in MP1, Queen of Spades, Queen of Diamonds, raised to 25.
Okay.
The button calls and blinds fold and under the gun calls, so we're about 80.
Okay.
Flop is 10 of clubs, 7 of spades, 6 of clubs.
Okay.
So the under the gun checks, and this is where I wanted to get your opinion. I was thinking about protecting a checking range, and I know it's mostly for value at the 1-2 games and the 2-5. But kind of given the game flow and what had happened to this point for an hour and a half, I decided to check because the guy on the button was an older gentleman who I'd seen seemed to like to bet when check too. So I decided to check, and I want to first see if you think this is always a bet or is this the type of board that you're okay checking an overpair with.
Well, a couple things. We'll look at the specific property of your hand too. And again, I've been learning this stuff over the last year. It didn't intuitively come to me, but what I would say is that can be a little bit overrated at the mid level of no limit, like protecting a checking range, because a lot of these guys aren't necessarily understanding configuration. I mean, in a theoretical sense, if you raise under the gun and two people call and the board comes out pretty much like three sort of ragged connected cards, which is sort of what this is, you're usually actually supposed to check your entire range from up front. I don't think that's going to be the best way to make money at live poker because people don't pounce on you and they don't call. They're calling pre-flop with the wrong hands and they're calling so wide, so they have so many combinations of hands you can get value from. So it's a little bit overrated depending on the toughness of the game. Now, with your specific hand, this is what I would look at here. I would say that the higher the overpair, the more you can check because it doesn't need as much protection. So I would rather check aces or kings here as opposed to queens. The other thing that I would look at is that it's better for you to have the queen of clubs in your hand, which you don't have, to fall into a check as opposed to not having it. And that's because you can continue on club turns if you check call with the queen of clubs. You also don't block somebody from calling you with flush draws. So you've got a couple things going against this specific hand where free cards give up free equity with queens, and you don't have a club in your hand. So I probably would not check here with your specific hand.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so mistake number one, check, and then the button bets out 50, and then it goes call, call. So I call, and so did the under the gun.
Limper calls and hero calls. Okay. So you're sort of kind of going to be, you're obviously going to be forced to play this a little bit defensively now with the line that you've taken.
Yep, and that's what I was confused about. Just trying to hit the, in game think about that, and I guess I got it backwards with not having any clubs in my hand. That makes a lot of sense when I heard you explain it that way. So that was helpful. The turn is the 5 of spades.
Okay.
And now the under the gun leads, who had limp, called leads for 125.
Wow, that's sort of weird. Any information about that guy?
I had, on the only other hand I had seen him play, and I played with him, I had, he led on a 10 high board, and I called to just, because I was, anyway, he turned to 10, and turned to 10, and he bet big again, so I just folded, so I didn't see what he had, but he had led before once previously, and I didn't see, but I did notice he had donk led before, and I figured this was something strange. I wasn't quite sure. And so I'm working on trying to look at also timing of bets and doing some live reading. And so,
backdoor spades come, right? So it's front door clubs, backdoor spades. The pot is 150, it's 225, and he leads for 125. So the pot's like 375, 125 for you to call. I mean, at this level, I'm probably going to call here. I mean, it sucks that you have a guy behind you, too. Obviously, if you were heads up, it's a slam dunk call, right? If it goes like, if you had bet the flop and it's check, call, donk. Here you get a guy behind you, but you're still getting decent turn pot odds. I would call.
Okay, so I called and
Plus, your hand is quote unquote underrepped. I laugh at that a little
yeah,
bit because yes,
I
it's a
know.
valid poker term, just like capped ranges, but people just use it so poorly. But yeah, in your case, probably most of the people in this pool aren't going to check overpairs. So you call.
I call and the button calls also, so I think
Oh,
it's
that's interesting.
somewhere around yeah, and somewhere around 600 is what I'm thinking. And I guess I was prepared to fold if the button, shoved
Oh
something,
yeah, I mean if the
or
button
raised it
raises or something,
significantly, of
yeah.
course.
hmm
So the
There
river,
aren't going to be many good cards for you here on the river though.
right, and so the river's the six of spades.
Six of spades, so it pairs the board.
And then this is kind of the thing I'm trying to work on. I've listened to some of the older content you have on there. I
Yeah.
think it was David Chan talked about, but he quickly under the gun, like really quickly threw out $300 chips. So he quick bet of 300,
So the backdoor flush
which
draw comes in, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I mean, a lot of these guys like seven of spades, five of spades, six of spades. A lot of these guys don't have. Some of these guys miss the backdoor flush draw. Obviously, someone can have 10x of spades. I've seen people like donk lead with 10x of spades here on the turn. Like they have top pair and then they just donk out the turn when they pick up a spade draw. What I'm saying about that some of these guys miss the backdoor flush draw is that sort of sucks for you because you don't even know if the guy actually had this straight if he even sees the backdoor flush draw. You know what I mean? Like he might just be like,
yep,
I mean, you're getting 3-1 here. Um, you have the queen of spades in your hand. You're getting 3-1 here. I mean, I sort of don't like it, but I would probably call. Although I have a hard time making these folds at a lot of these people, a lot of the calls call in and they're looking for me to tell them to make like epic folds in certain situations, but a lot of the money is getting max value. Are you good here? One out of four times. He leads for 125. Now he bets 300, which is half the pot. You got a guy behind you. Obviously, it's much better for you to close the action, but I think like if he bet 500, I would fold. But here, I still, I would probably throw in a call. Call me a station or what, but
yeah. I did a quick glance when he bet at the guy on the button, and he looked uncomfortable. And my first instinct was he was going to fold, so I was just kind of trying to go with that. And then I did look and see that I had the queen of spades,
yeah,
and so that led me more to a call after a while.
right.
He showed 9-7 of clubs, so
So you're good.
he had that pair and a flush draw
So you were good.
on the flop. I was good.
Cool.
So, but
Yeah.
that's the whole hand kind of where I felt defensive, like you described, because of my flop check, and I just wanted to hear how you would think through that, and that was helpful.
So so the button guy folded, right? On the river?
He folded. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
this guy had 9-7 of clubs. That's really interesting because I just love. Here's what I would have done if I was that guy. And especially if I ever saw you make this play. And you did nothing wrong. What's your name? Gabe?
Grant.
Grant. You did nothing wrong. But if I had ever paid attention and saw that you will sometimes check over pairs on boards like this, and I was that guy in the where is he in the big blind, right? He's in the big blind.
He was under the
Um,
gun limp.
Under the gun limp. I mean, I would probably not under the gun limp, but I would check raise the button. I would check raise the button all day long there. With 9-7 of clubs, he's got a flush draw, he's got a gut shot, and he's got a straight draw. The button is a field caller. I mean, yeah, I know we have a pair, but I would choose that one to check raise. You're going to have to fold out everything in between, right? Okay, I
Right.
mean, you'd have to fold queens. And I put a lot of pressure on that guy. Like, is that guy going to bet call queen 10? Usually not. Not even like ace 10 or king 10. Especially if I fire barrels like later on. Obviously,
Yeah.
had nothing to do with you, but that's how I would have played it if I was the limper. That's why I liked attacking, like I said, attacking field betters here with draws. You know,
And that brings up another question, is because sometimes when people have, like in his case, he had a hand of a pair and a flush draw, but he's
right,
got the middle pair. So
right.
if I were to show strength, he probably knows, or you've talked about not going crazy. But when it's a field better, then that makes it a good strategy to put pressure on the field better, and you could fold out like
Well,
you were talking
that's
about. I would fold
right.
out the
Well,
queen.
that comes back to configuration too, right? Like you're raising over the top of a limp. If you see bet this board, you really should have probably like king 10 suited plus, and you have a lot of overpairs if you know what you're doing when you see bet. but the field player can have almost anything. Now, this particular example is interesting because the guy does have middle pair for a 7, so he might not have to do that. And like maybe a better example would be like if he had, Jack 8 of clubs, right? Something like that on 10-7-6. But the point that I'm making is that I sometimes will semi bluff those middle pairs because the guy's going to fold the 10 out. I mean, if he bets with Jack 10 on the button and I check raise, is he going to go to war with Jack 10? So my point is that the button's got a weaker range here for betting this flop, I feel like, as the field better. Um, in terms of what will sometimes bet and fold. Now, people could say, well, he's got some combinations of straights and some combinations of two pair. Yeah, that's true, but he's especially if these guys call with a lot of offsuit broadways, he's got a lot of tens too. So, anyways, thanks for the call.
All right. Take care.
Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out crushlivepoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA100. Click on the link right there.